right, my loves. Can you hear me now? Okay, perfect. I think that we have fixed our problem. We weren't able to hear me last time, but I wanted to go ahead and start another live. So thank you so much for coming back. So, welcome, welcome, welcome. This is Zipporah Monique, and I am going to be your host today of EQ Edge, the leveraging emotional intelligence for business, life, and success. So, what I was telling you before on my other live is that literally I have not been on live in so long, and I want to apologize for that. But I did want to say that I wanted to come back and kind of share all the things that I've learned with you. So the pandemic has happened, your girl has grown in life and business. So now I'm this executive consultant that really goes around and help high earners, CEO, high performers really dive into what they need to succeed as leaders. Now, one of the large tactics that I use is emotional intelligence. And why emotional intelligence hits home? Because it is one of the fastest growing needs in life and business. Excuse me, I gotta get my screen together because I had some technical difficulties on the other live. So excuse me while I do that. So it's one of the fastest growing needs. Right now, we're no longer empathetic anymore. We're no longer caring to people. We're no longer see people as humans. Right. There's a lot of conflict resolution that needs to be had. There's a lot of leadership things that needs to be had. There's a lot of things that just need to be had. That's just not going on. So I did want to mention that I did want to mention that I did want to mention that um when when I'm talking to my clients, I'm able to thank you, Lynn. Hey, great. So when I'm talking to my clients, I am able to literally break down what is missing in their cycles, in their company culture, and even in their lives. What is missing that they can't show up authentically as a leader, that they can't show up authentically as the best that they can be, that they can't show up when there's conflict, that they can't show up when there's criticism. So I kind of coach them through that to really allow them to not be burnt out, to not be insecure when they have a seat at the table. I help my clients with that, and I absolutely love doing it. Okay. So let's go ahead and dive into it. Like the title says, this is EQ Edge, leveraging emotional intelligence for life and business success. Now, emotional intelligence, what the heck is that? So we talk about that all the time. Emotional intelligence is really just understanding your emotions, regulating them, but also understanding the emotions of people around you. Now, when we're talking about the emotions of people around you, it's picking up on those social cues. It's being able to understand when there's a problem without them even saying anything. That nonverbal communication is very important. Okay. And when you are able to cultivate emotional intelligence, guess what? It leads to better relationships. It leads to making more effective decisions. It leads to just an overall drive and better options, better outcomes, better opportunities. Now, who doesn't want that? When we're talking about opportunities, we're talking about things across the board. If you have an emotional intelligence and you're self aware, then you know what opportunities are right for you and what opportunities are just plain no, okay? Because you can say no. You have the value to say no. So, also in making better decisions, a lot of people, when they are CEOs, leaders, or even entrepreneurs, they start getting decision fatigue. But decision fatigue. And so when we're doing decision fatigue, it's literally, I've made decisions so much, I have no idea what I'm doing. I'm just going to say whatever. And it's not the best decision, right? So I stop all of that. So what's the EQ edge? The EQ edge is this the advantage that you can gain from understanding and cultivating emotional intelligence or understanding your emotions. It's literally to be able to recognize your emotions, and when you develop in that, you are able to be authentic. Now, when we're talking about authentic leadership or mindful leadership, that's exactly the sweet spot where we need to be in. Who are you as a leader? How do you attribute? What value do you give to the people who work with you, work for you, work around you, who partner with you? Who are you? And so many people don't know that. So many people don't know how they show up as a leader or never even trained themselves in a leader. They just done really, really well in this role and they want to be put into a leadership position when that's not the case and that's not what's needed. So the four components of emotional intelligence. One is a self-awareness, literally your ability to recognize and understand yourself, your emotions, and how does that impact your behavior, right? So I'll give you an example. If I'm walking around and I have this chip on my shoulder and I'm looking at everybody else like they have an attitude, but I'm the one with the chip. I'm introducing the chip on my shoulder. I'm introducing the attitude, and I'm become the thermostat in the area, and I change the temperature of everybody. And I'm thinking it's everybody else. That's not self-aware. That is the complete opposite of being self-aware. But when you are emotionally intelligent, you can understand, hey, I know I felt off today. I know I have a chip on my shoulder. So what I'm going to do is I'm not only going to give myself grace, but I'm going to give people grace around me. Hey, I know you're going to be working close with me today, but I'm a little off. If I say anything, excuse me, let's talk about it. It's not you, it's me. It's really being upfront and being authentic. Leaders with high self awareness are able to reduce risk of negative behaviors of outbursts and impulsivity. Why is that so important? I tell all my clients, there's power in the pause, right? We want to be responders, not reactors. What's the difference? A person that reacts, this is like a firecracker, like a firecracker, like outburst, like just I'm gonna impulse. I've been reacting like this my whole entire life, and guess what? I ain't about to change now. Exactly. We don't want that because guess what? We get stuck in that cycle of this is how I've been reacting without emotional intelligence, and you gonna get it essentially. But when we respond, we are able to make mindful decisions on how we want this outcome to look like. We got one or two outcomes usually in a situation where we want to be impulsive. We got one or two outcomes. Are we gonna let it ride like we did in the past, or we're gonna make a educated decision on what we should do next? Respond, not react. You are a responder, not a reactor. Okay, just even in chemical experiments, you drop a drop of something in something else, a reaction. We don't want that. We want a response, a response. Now, there's also power in the pause. We talked about this a little bit earlier. But when there's power in the pause, then you can start thinking. You can start thinking about your goals, your mission, um, what type of character that you want to show, right? And sometimes when you're first starting off with that is self-awareness piece, it takes a little bit longer when the pause, but it's always good to pause, right? It's always good to pause. Now, number two is self-management. Now, from self-awareness, from knowing who you are, or yeah, if I ask you, who are you? We're not talking about titles. We're talking about adjectives. What make you you? Oh, I'm compassionate. I'm empathetic. Not that I'm a mom, not that I'm a teacher, not that I'm a CEO. Who are you really? Now, when we dive into self-management, it's really the ability to regulate those emotions. Just like I said before, you're a responder, not a reactor, and focusing on how your behaviors are staying focused on your goals. So self-management, I'll give you an example, is self-management is waking up in the morning and saying, I don't feel like working out, and then you don't work out. But then you have a big list or big goals that say, hey, I want this goal by this summer. I want to lose this by this summer. I want to be able to lift this by this summer. I want to be able to do this physically. I want to look this way physically during the summer. And you're allowing your emotions to control your decisions. It's never a good thing. It's never a good thing. So, when we're talking about that self management piece, that's when you have to manage those emotions. Hey, I have these emotions. Hey, I understand that these emotions are not true to me. These emotions are just my emotions, okay? But they're gonna have to get on the board because we going on this workout. That's how it's supposed to be. Now, this self management really involves the development of resistance. It really involves stress management strategies, and it really involves how to really cope under pressure. So there's negative coping behaviors and there's positive coping behaviors. You choose which coping behaviors you want to use. And usually those negative coping behaviors, it's not really coping, it's covering. When you use the positive ones, that's when you can heal, and that's when you can really be in that moment of self-management. Because when self-management happens, then you can start going to the next one, which is social awareness. Now, social awareness really involves recognizing and understanding the emotions of others. Now, as a CEO, as a leader, as an entrepreneur, this is going to be monumental for you, especially in sales, in and delegation and hiring, and all of these different things. Social awareness is spot on. If you could recognize the emotions in others, you can recognize if you're hiring a great candidate, if you're delegating to a person that's going to get the work done, if you're partnering with someone who's not going to double back on your agreement later. It's being able to understand people before they even open their mouth. Okay. So, leaders with high social awareness are able to read the room. Have you ever been in a situation where it's like, girl, you didn't read the room? You did not read the room. She does not have any social awareness. Okay. So, when you read the room, you adjust your communication style or you adjust to suit the needs of your team, right? So, let's say, for example, you are the CEO, you walk into your staff meeting and you have people that are just acting rambunctious. Okay. We got people over here that has all the ideas, they shouting out ideas, they doing everything. We got the stoic people over here. We have people over here that really just are doing their work in the back and really don't care about the meeting. You have to be able how to guide all of them and get them on the same page. How can you do that without social awareness? Don't worry, I got you. So that's what I'm talking about. That's so you bring in that communication style, you bring in your leadership style. And if you didn't look at my live last time when we talked about communication styles, I'll make sure that I put the link below so you can definitely do that. But we talked about communication styles and how to talk to different people, even the ones that who don't say anything, even the ones who can't shut up, even the ones who just want to do their work and focus on those things. There's so many things that you can definitely do. The next one is relationship management. Now, I get paid the big bucks because of this last step, the relationship management. Because guess what? No man is an island. And when we are business owners and CEOs and leaders, we can't do anything by ourselves. We have to work in tandem with not only our partners, our peers, our employees, whomever. We have to work in tandem with them. We have to be able to delegate. So the relationship management is by far the piece that I really have to hone in on when I'm working with teams. A lot of people don't have that relationship management. We can attribute that to our parents. We can attribute that to our growing up style. We can attribute that to whatever you want to attribute it to, but we just don't have it. And we need to start honing that score. So, with relationship management, it involves using your emotional intelligence to build strong relationship with others. This includes developing empathy. Now, there's a difference between empathy and sympathy, right? It also includes active listening. I just didn't just say listening, active listening and conflict resolution. And I can tell you, those are the three big whammies when I'm talking to CEOs, when I'm talking to teams, when I'm talking to corporations and organizations. It's that where's your empathy? Why aren't you actively listening? And where's your conflict resolution strategies? Right? That relationship management not only stems from the people who you deal with at work, the people in your family, your romantic relationships, and just your plain friendships. You can see a pattern through them all. So usually when I work with my clients, I kind of ask them a question. Well, what's your relationship with your family? What's your relationship with your significant other? What does your best friend feel about you? Those are all telling signs. You ain't gonna tell me what you gonna tell me what your work you don't have to tell me what's happening at work because I already know from your other relationships. So pay attention, pay attention, pay attention to the relationship management piece for sure. So I broke down the four components of emotional intelligence. And as I keep going live with you all, I'm going to dive more and more into those things. As of right now, we just going to talk about, if you want to talk more about those things, you already know, slide in your girl DM. But we're going to move on to how to build the EQ edge, right? Because I want to talk to y'all about that before we even get off this live, okay? And I don't want to keep y'all too long, okay? But I can talk on this forever. So when we're building the EQ edge, it's different components or strategies that you can do to really hone in on the four components of emotional intelligence. And one is practicing self-reflection. Child, I am a self-reflector, okay? Other people in my circle will say that I'm a little hard on myself, but tomato, tomato, it's fine. Um, so practice a self-reflection. So when we're talking about self-reflection, I need you to develop a habit of reflecting on your emotions and your behaviors. Journaling, journaling, journaling. I could say it 12, 15 more times. Journaling. Okay. I use OneNote for my journaling. I used to write in a journal, but I got journals from when I was in high school. But journal your emotions and your behaviors, right? So from there, if you journaling your emotions and your behaviors, you can see your growth, right? Metrics are everything in life and business. How do you know that you got to where you need to go if you have no metrics? Measure those metrics. Journal. How are you feeling on Tuesday of June 13th? How are you feeling? How are you feeling on Tuesday before this week before? How are you feeling? Now, journaling, meditation, and mindful practices all can improve self-awareness and self-management. So I would also add to that is that well, we'll talk about that a little bit later. But all three of those are going to improve your self-awareness. Meditation, I've never not known a millionaire or billionaire that does not meditate, that does not do mindful practices, that does not journal. I'm just saying. I'm just saying. All right, number two, build empathy skills. Empathy, empathy, empathy. We're not talking about sympathy. What's the difference? Sympathy is, oh man, I feel really sorry for you. Right? You heard how that sounded. You heard how that sounded. You heard how that sounded. But empathy is, wow, I can't believe that you're going through that. How can I support you? Two different tones to me. Two different tones. Y'all heard it. Anyway, so when you are developing when you develop your ability to understand and relate to others' emotions, this can be done. Oh, excuse me. When you develop and under when you excuse me, when you have develop the ability to relate to someone emotions of others, they feel heard. Now, when someone really caters to you, when someone asks you, "Hey, how you doing?" and they really want to know your answer, doesn't that make you melt a little bit? Like, "Oh, you do care. Thank you. Thank you for asking. Let me tell you for real." When we develop these empathy skills, especially as leaders, guess what? People are going to feel that. People are going to remember how you made them feel special. They might not even be feeling special that day, but they walk in, saw you, you asked them how you're doing, you provided these empathetic tones to your questions and nature and so on, and they're like, she really cares about me. I want no, I'll do whatever she wants to. And that's what I'm talking about. When we're talking about CEOs and you providing empathy to your team, and empathy is a team culture, it's part of your team culture. Not only are your employees going to bend over backwards for you, employee productivity is going to skyrocket. Your revenue is going to skyrocket. All these different things are going to skyrocket just because you provided empathy. Just because a person knows that you care about their well-being, that you care about their development, that you care about their personal goals, that you care about how their grandma doing, right? So this can also be done by active listening, asking open-ended questions. Open-ended question is of those questions that can only be answered without a yes or no, and putting yourself in other people's shoes, right? If I were in that person's shoes, how would I want me to react? Excuse me, respond, right? So number three is prioritizing relationship building. I don't care what you gotta do. Find a podcast, find a book, find me, whatever you need to do. Please, please, please prioritize relationship building, because when I tell you this is the biggest problem between my clients, it's the biggest problem. So, when we're talking about relationship building, it should be a priority in your work as well as your life. This means taking time to build rapport with your team members, networking with other professionals, and investing in mentor-mentee relationships, right? A lot of people are like, "Well, I'm on the clock, I'm on the clock." Well, how are you mentoring? How are you using the things that you learned to help someone else? Or who's your mentor? After I found out Oprah has 7 mentors, I was like, "Well, yeah, probably time for me to get a couple too." What? The greats of greats have mentors. Without a mentor and mentee relationship, you're lost. Well, I think. Look, that was a little dramatic, but I'm thinking that without that mentor and mentee relationships, not only can you not learn things from a different vantage point, but you are also able to teach other people things from a different vantage point. It's spot on. It's spot on. And the next thing is seek feedback. Most times in a jobs or business or when we are asking our friends for critiques, we don't really want them, right? We don't we don't necessarily know what they're going to say. This is my baby, this is what I've been doing forever. I've been doing this for 20 years, and I know what I'm doing. And then they give this feedback, and you don't like the feedback, and then you take it so personal. Start loving feedback. Start loving authentic feedback, especially with someone who you want to change spaces, trade places with, or someone who you really respect as a leader and a high performer, right? Ask others about feedbacks on your emotional intelligence skills. Ask others about your feedback on your relationship building. Ask other people your feedback on empathy. Not only this can allow you to have a 360 degree of who you are, it brings back in that self-awareness, but it also allows you to, if you don't want to show up like that, you can change it. You can simply change it. So this also goes back to, sometimes we get informal feedback from our colleagues, from our peers, from our partners. So when we're getting that informal feedback from them, we're able to understand what we can what we can agree with and what we can't agree with. Yeah, I kind of agree with that, but that other thing they said, let me ask somebody else. When you are able to look and reflect and kind of get feedback from the trusted individuals, it's so good. And a challenge for that, because I always like challenges. So a challenge for the seek feedback. I want y'all to go onto your Instagram, Facebook page, and just ask your friends, or you can even text your friends, however you want to do it. What are 3 words that you think describe me? What are 3 words that come to mind when you think of me? That's a simple part of the feedback, simple part of the feedback. And listen to them when they tell you that, especially the people that know you the most. So, that is all that I have today for y'all about the EQ edge. I do want to remind you that emotional intelligence is critical. It's critical. It is absolutely critical. I wouldn't be teaching it if it wasn't, but it allows you to really create it all together, um, just happier life in a sense. Now, what I really like to do is kind of dive into people's specific situations. There's not a lot of people on this live right now, and I'm super fine with that. But if you are watching the replay, I would love, love, love to get into your specific situation and figure out where you need or where you may be lacking emotional intelligence. Right now, I have a Do You Lead with Emotional Intelligence quiz, as well as an emotional intelligence book that I have out for women of color, but I'm gonna get one for the men, okay? But right now, it's all about emotional intelligence. I really want to help you hone into that. So, if you are here on the live, do you have any questions for me as we wrap this up? And if you are watching a replay, do you have any questions for me? You can slide in my DMs at ZipporahMonique.com and the email is support@ZipporahMonique.com, or you can slide and comment under this video below. I definitely are looking forward to having other videos with you. And I'm not seeing a question in the chat right now, but I want to say thank you for listening. I want to cut this off right around 30 minutes. So thank y'all for listening. Once again, I am Zipporah Monique. I'm your executive coach to help you get emotional intelligence. Take care next time.